Next, I'll add 3 command buttons. One for calculate cost, one for clear, and one for exit. Before I add the other 2, I'm going to get the size of this button set. This is going to be my calculate cost button. Notice that when I type in my text property, all of the text does not appear because the button is not large enough to display it. So I'm going to resize this enough so that I can see the text. And the book suggests that we change the command button's font property, font style, to bold. Remember, the font has all these different sub-properties, but we can simply get to them through the ellipsis. But I only want to change the bold, so I can simply click this expansion button for the font properties and change the bold property to true. Notice that because we did that, the fonts got a little bit bigger. Once again, our button is not large enough to display our entire text. So I'll resize it again. Now, I did all of that with one button because I want the other buttons to be the same size. Now, I could resize the buttons once all 3 of them are set, but I'm going to use this button to make a copy, and then paste 2 more buttons. Now all I have to do is go in and change the button names and their text properties. Okay, now with these 3 buttons, I want to maybe increase the space in between them, center them on the form. I'm going to select all 3 buttons. Notice I'm using that little lasso method. And then, using my format toolbar, I'm going to increase the horizontal spacing between them. Notice that the space between these buttons will increase. Now, that may be too much. We'll see. I can center them on the form. And one more thing that I suppose I should have done before I increase the space, I want to make sure that the spacing between the first 2 buttons is exactly the same as the spacing between the second 2 buttons. So again, I'll select all 3 buttons, and I'm going to make the spacing the same. Make horizontal spacing equal. The book asks us to change the form's background color and the back color of the buttons. For the sake of time, I'm going to choose not to do that. You are welcome to do it or to not do it. Next, we're going to set a couple of form properties. Make sure the form is selected. Now that we've added some buttons to our form, a couple of user-friendly properties I want to talk about. The accept button property is a command button on your form that will automatically be clicked not by the mouse pointing at it and clicking, but by the user hitting the enter key on the keyboard. Notice that we have a drop-down list for our accept button property, and the drop-down list includes the 3 buttons that we added. If I were a user using this form, and I wanted to use this form without using the mouse, just using the keyboard, once I've entered a value into the number of songs, and I want to calculate cost, I would like to just hit the enter key. So, the accept button property of the form, I'm going to set it to the calculate cost button. So instead of having to click the cost button with my mouse, I can simply hit the enter key on the keyboard, and that simulates clicking the calculate cost button. The next form property is the cancel button property. Again, we'll see that it has the drop-down list that includes the 3 buttons. Now, we certainly don't want it to be the calculate cost. Then you've got 2 keyboard keys doing the same thing. The cancel button property is associated with the keyboard's escape key. Now, I'm going to leave it up to you. Use the escape key to clear the form so that you can re-enter data, or to exit the form. I'm going to choose to do the clear. Now that you've learned how to do this for your Windows Forms projects, anytime you have a Windows Form project with a command button, you should set at least one of these depending on the command button you have. If you have 2 or more command buttons, I really think you should set both of these properties for every form. It's something I expect to see in every form. Okay, let's place an image in our picture box. Now the book tells you specifically to go to the book's website to get the image. Remember, I've provided you the images on the e-learning course content page. You can use the image specifically for this particular project, or you can find an image of your own. Select the picture box, go to the image property, click the ellipsis, and then we're going to import a project resource file. So make sure the project resource file option button is selected. Select the import. Remember that we have several picture box properties. Size mode is one that we will use to make the picture fit the picture box. Experiment with some of these different size mode properties to see what effects you get. Okay, that should be what we need for designing our form. Make sure you're saving your project periodically. Again, I'm using the Save All button.